We're rolling into week 16. We're in the fantasy playoffs, and we got to look at the waiver wire. We're doing a deep dive at the running back position. We're going to strategize around these running backs, see which ones we want to pick up, which ones we may want to stay away from, which ones are just touch merchants out of the backfield that might have some upside but probably will bust on us. We're looking at those today. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're deep diving the waiver wire all week long so you can look at those pickups. We're helping you set your lineups with the must-start series. We're going to deep dive these trending players, and we're going to do a lot of deep dives this week. A ton of them because the season's almost over, and the ancillary players that I've been liking that's starting to get a little bit of touches, they're going to get a deep dive because I like talking ball on these players, and I'm going to deep dive their advanced metrics with you guys. You need to click that subscribe button right now. Stop missing out. Rick Flair's watching. You do not want to disappoint Rick Flair. We're going to start off with a trendy running back right now. When we're talking about running backs, Jerome Ford. And Jerome Ford is going to get an opportunity because Nick Chubb's injured. He's out for the year. And he got some work last week. And we got the Bengals on the road. We got the Dolphins. And if you got a Week 18 championship game, which thousands of people do, the Ravens on the road. When I think about Jerome Ford and what I'm seeing going forward is a touch merchant. And what I mean by touch merchant is he's going to get enough touches to volume into fantasy production here and there. And the Browns offense is very unstable. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. And Jerome Ford is very unstable this year when he was the leading in the backfield. Jerome Ford is a touch merchant. He can get you to fantasy production only if you don't have any stud running backs to look at. I would not be benching any studs for Jerome Ford. I think that's common sense. When I look at Jerome Ford, I'm looking at a running back that's getting touches. So my strategy around him is also I'm looking at the teams I'm going up against in the playoffs. If they need a running back desperately to the point that they're starting Jerome Ford, I might just pick him up. Even though he's a touch merchant and he might get 10 to 15 touches a game and he may bust on 2 out of 3 games. The thing about that, if he's sitting on my bench, I know that that lucky game's not going to go against me if that team needs a running back. That's the thing about that. I'm not going to say Jerome Ford's going to go off on any of these games or bust on any of these games. I will say the right thing to say about Jerome Ford is he's a touch merchant. He's going to get a lot of touches, and he's going to get the work out of the backfield. And in some games, that's going to volume into fantasy production. In some games, it's not. We have a history of that. We had it last year. It was a little better last year. The quarterback plays up and down. We don't even know what that's going to look like going into this week. But we're looking at the Bengals on the road. A good matchup. A fun matchup for the Browns. The Browns are a fun team, though. On paper, on TV, they're a fun team. Jerome Ford is a guy you may want to strategize around. Kendre Miller. Alvin Kamara is hurt. Might not play this week. They're doing more testing as of right now from the news I've seen. By the time you watch this video, you might get more about him. I'm going to do a unique video on him. Jerome Ford for sure. Probably a few more running backs. We're going to get a fair bit of unique videos this week due to the influx of players getting hurt this week. And then some players I like that are just doing a little bit on the field and the season's almost over and I want to talk about them. But Kendre Miller here, coming out of TCU, very explosive running back, very productive. Got drafted in the 3rd round. We have not gotten to see much out of him because he's been hurt almost the whole time. Last year, this year. Last 2 weeks, we're starting to get some touches. 19 carries in the last 2 weeks. 47.6% opportunity share. When you're looking at all these running backs on this list from the waiver wire, that's up there. That's up there. That is something to look at. If Kamara is out, Kendre Miller could be a league winner. Could be. I'm not going to guarantee it because we got some iffy matchups here, but we do got the Raiders in Week 17. They're going to explore what they have in Kendre Miller too to see how well they want to use him next year and whether or not they want to invest in the running back position next year. The next year's running back class, 2025, is deep. A lot better than 2024. Better at the top end and better throughout all ranges of the draft. Even UDFAs will be better compared to the 2024 draft class. They need to assess Kendre Miller. I'm sure they know that. I'm sure not a random guy from Ohio knows more than them. I'm sure they know that, and they got to assess Kendre Miller. I would not be surprised if they shut down Alvin Kamara. That's probably the right thing to do considering they're not going to win the Super Bowl. Kendre Miller is a big splash pickup. He's a gamble play with a lot of upside. I do not want him on another team. I want him on my bench, and I want to watch him. If I'm struggling, yeah, sure. Sure, because there's upside here. They're going to use him. They don't have anybody else to roll with. Kendre Miller's been getting touches. So with Kamara out, he's probably going to get more touches. He's proven to get work in the passing game with his team. He had a long target last year that he reeled in. He had a deep bomb. Kendre Miller's got some upside in his offense. Tyjae Spears. With him, you're watching Tony Pollard. You're watching him. You're watching the injury. Tyjae Spears has the upside to be a good running back in this league. They need to start using him more because of the knee issues that cropped up during his testing from the combine. And Tyjae Spears is a very good running back prospect with good vision. Very good. Explosive in the open field. This is a running back that, if given a larger opportunity, could be nasty in fantasy production. It is the Titans, though. Buyer beware of that. It is the Titans. I can't guarantee you anything when the team's funky. I can't guarantee it. I can guarantee you the team's funky. We got a Week 17 game here on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have a tendency to give up a lot of points to running backs. That is something to pay attention to. You got Indy on the road. This is a running back you may want to scoop up. You're watching Tony Pollard throughout the week, and you're seeing what's going on with his injury. If he's questionable, missing practices, you may want to hold on to Tyjae Spears. Ty Johnson has seen 8 targets in the last 2 games. He's a trendy pickup right now on all the waiver wire articles. I think he's a guy to look at. I'm too scared to start right now. If James Cook goes out, then I'm thinking about him. Probably same lines as when he went out earlier. Probably the same lines. He's going to get work in the passing game. He'll get opportunities there. But you'll also look at Ray Davis. Ray Davis will be the hoss up the gut. He's been getting the touches all throughout the season. I think both of them are fine the roster. I like Ray Davis a little bit more. For the long term, there's no long term anymore. But as spot starts, I guess as a backup running back, if you got a spot start one of these guys. But Ray Davis is the guy I like because we already got a history of him being the guy. And Ray Davis getting touches out of the backfield is something to look at and holding it down. And he can hold on to a large workload while Ty Johnson just smashes targets out of the passing game. Kenneth Gainwell needs to be picked up if you got Saquon Barkley. You need to do that right now. You need to make that pick up right now. You need to get that handcuff because if Saquon Barkley goes out, you're going to want him. Saquon Barkley went out a little bit last week due to getting hit on the thigh, was out a few plays. The internet erupted. That being said, Kenneth Gainwell's the guy to pick up. He's getting touches. He's getting workload and opportunity. You got Dallas in Week 17, and maybe they split up the workload more in that game. Maybe they get up. Maybe you can get lucky with Kenneth Gainwell. What if you're starting to get hurt at running back at other spots, and maybe you got to throw him in? You got that Dallas game in Week 17. That's something to look at. But if something happens to Saquon in Week 16 here against Washington on the road, you do not have to fight for him. You're going to get a good running back here against an offensive line that's getting a good push up front, who's going to get a lot of workload in the passing game and some touches up the gut, and they're going to rely on him. A 31.3% opportunity share, 3 targets. He's starting to get a little bit more workload in the back nine of the season. They're starting to meat shield Saquon a little bit more. You're seeing that. You can't rely on him for fantasy production right now. But damn it, if Saquon goes out and you did not pick him up after hearing this, that's on you. Tank Bigsby. He's a touch merchant, and we got to strategize around these touch merchants. They're volatile plays. They're getting touches. You're looking at him getting a 38.7 opportunity share. He'll go off on your bench. He'll bust in your lineup. I was calling him the Quentin Johnston of running backs, but Quentin Johnston has been more stable. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not stable at all. You got the Raiders on the road. You got Tennessee coming up. There's a chance he gets you a good spot in one of these few games. You're not going to trust it. If you're good at the running back position, you're not going to mess around with Tank Bigsby. If you're hurting and you need a touch merchant, a guy that's getting double-digit touches, because that's what we're seeing here, 18 carries, 11 carries, there you go. There you go, and that's a gamble. So you know he's getting touches, and you're just rolling the dice out there, see what happens. Versus a running back that's only getting 5 to 7, the odds are against him. That makes sense, right? He's a touch merchant. There will be games where he goes off. There's not many more games left. Maybe he's got one more game left in him. Kimani Vidal, 42.9% opportunity share. He's very explosive. We do got Denver coming up. I don't know if anybody's going to want to start him Week 16 against Denver. This is a matchup where teams have to get creative. They have to get creative against tough defenses like this, so he might see a little bit more targets. He saw 3 targets last week. He might be in the 3 to 5 range when it comes to targets in Week 16. We got New England on the road. He's very explosive. you may want to look at him. You may already have him rostered. He's explosive. He might be a good pinch start as a gamble. Almost touch merchant category, but he's more like a rocket running back. On any given touch could go off on you, but still a gamble that you throw in there, close your eyes, and pray to the fantasy gods. Nothing I'm going to guarantee you on, but he is a gamble play that you could look at, maybe more for daily fantasy football in deep tournaments. But honestly, when you're in the playoffs, I wouldn't mess around with this against Denver Broncos. But honestly, he's good for the bench. He's good if you're really struggling, if you're in a deeper league. But we do have some explosiveness and upside. Alexander Mattison's back since Sione McCormick's hurt. Alexander Mattison's another touch merchant through volumes into fantasy production here and there. Not reliable. We got some good matchups coming up. Jacksonville just keeps going up against these running backs. They must be playing in all these extra games or something because I keep reading them off. But they got Jacksonville week 16. We mentioned that for Sincere McCormick in his Unique video, that we were not interested in this Atlanta game, but we were interested in this Jacksonville game because that's an indicator that one of these running backs could volume into fantasy production. Alexander Mattison wasn't undeniable when he was getting the touches when Zamir White was sucking, but Alexander Mattison's good enough to volume into fantasy production accidentally on a few weeks. We're looking at the Detroit Lions running backs here. Craig Reynolds, when given the opportunity, has the potential to volume into fantasy production. Vaki is the rookie that we're paying attention to. He's got a lot of upside. We're seeing if he gets more touches. And David Montgomery's out for the season. If you're in a deeper league, you may want to scoop up the running back that you like best. Craig Reynolds has a deeper history with his team. Vaki's the rookie with a lot of upside, very unknown player. He got drafted in like the 4th round, though. He's not undrafted. I wouldn't be surprised if he surprises us down the line. Tyler Allgeier. We all know this. I talk about this every week. Handcuffed to Bijan Robinson. If I have Bijan Robinson, I want Tyler Allgeier. He's also a guy that could volume into fantasy production on any given week. So if you got to make that gamble, if you're in a deeper league, that's somebody to look at. But again, a good handcuff to Bijan Robinson. Jaylen Warren's getting opportunities. Some games he splashes a little bit. Some games he doesn't. He's a 1B back, 37.5% opportunity share, but we're getting targets consistently every single game, anywhere between 1 and 4. So that could volume into fantasy production. We got Baltimore and Kansas City coming up. That's not great situations for him. However, if he gets a few extra targets in those games, due to the matchups being a little bit sticky and they have to be a little bit more contrarian with their play calling, Jaylen Warren might get a little bit more opportunity. Jalen Wright's a shotgun running back. I think you can only roster him right now if you have Devin HN, or you just try and pick him up on the quick next week if HN gets hurt. If you don't have HN, he's got the speed, he's got the upside to be a league-winning asset. You got San Francisco coming up. You got Cleveland on the road. We got some upside with them, but time's running out. HN staying healthy. They're not using him that much. A 3.4% opportunity share is not enough to be fantasy relevant. I only like him as a handcuff running back right now. Same thing with Blake Corum. He's starting to get a little bit more touches. They're starting to use him as a meat shield, which they should have done that the whole time. He should have been getting about 5 to 8 touches a game just to keep Kyren Williams a little bit more fresh. So you're just stashing him with Kyren Williams as a handcuff, and that's it. Blake Corum's a good stash play if you got room for it, because if Kyren Williams goes down, Blake Corum's going to get a lot of touches. This is a very good running back prospect who's very stout, who's very studious, who'll get it done, who'll get you the opportunity to splash in your matchup. Blake Corum's a guy to stash. Antonio Gibson, 39.1% opportunity share. He's starting to get volume in this offense. You may not trust it, but if you're really looking for a gamble play here, a guy that's getting targets out of the backfield, that's getting some workload carrying the ball, 7 carries last week, 7 the week before, on top of the work in the passing game, that's something you may want to look at. You got Buffalo, which is always in weird game scripts. You got the Chargers coming up, so you do have some matchups here that could be advantageous for Antonio Gibson, but maybe not. He's a big-time gamble play, so I'm only looking at him if I'm struggling at running back. Cam Akers is a good handcuff for Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones goes out, Cam Akers is the guy. So if I got Aaron Jones, Cam Akers is a priority. And if Aaron Jones makes it past week 16, I might be dropping him after that or holding on to him depending on the matchup I got in the championship game. You got to really strategize around that. But he's got a lot of upside in this game. He's getting workload. He is ideally the number 2 back in his offense who will be a good handcuff if something happens to Aaron Jones. So if I got Aaron Jones, I'm looking at Cam Akers as a touch merchant going forward in an offense that's moving the ball. Jaleel McLaughlin's banged up. I'm seeing him get mentioned on a lot of websites as a pickup off the waiver wire. The thing about him is he's getting touches and opportunities, but so is the other running backs for the Denver Broncos. I do not know if you made it this deep in the playoffs, if you have to trust the Denver backfield with how spread out things are. I wouldn't really recommend it. He's banged up right now. You're watching the practice reports. You may want to go to one of the other running backs. If he can't play, you got the Chargers coming up. You got the Bengals coming up. I am seeing him get recommended. I would be wary of this backfield. He is starting to get touches. If I'm hurting, if I'm having trouble starting running backs, sure. But now we're like in the RB, 40 range, 35 range of the rankings. You should have something. Those are the running backs we're looking at going into Week 16. We strategized around them, trying to figure out what to do. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.